great divide between two Americas, between two platforms, one that was released in Tampa last week and another one that was released yesterday in Charlotte. And this is breaking news. I don't know if you know this or not, breaking news, but God is back. Everybody know God is back? No, literally. In the Democrat platform, God is back. Today they decided they were going to reintroduce God back into their platform. They also decided they're going to reintroduce Jerusalem back into their platform. I doubt they're going to admit that it's actually the capital of Israel, but they are reintroducing it back into the platform. They're going to do that tonight. So why did that happen? Well, one, it first happened because they took God out because of a lack of leadership. Certainly, they didn't believe that the majority of Americans still do believe in God. And so they found out yesterday, through all that media attention, that America still does believe in God. And so that's a big challenge that they face right now. You know, so we have this great divide between two platforms. And America has to make a great decision on November 6th of which direction are they going to go. What are we going to decide towards? What's the future that we're going to have for ourselves and for our children? Are we going to decide for the platform that decides to take God out one day or put God back in the next day, or decide for the platform that has had God in their platform from the beginning, that says we still do call on a higher power to make our great decisions for our nation? Are we going to decide on a platform that says we're going to pressure the states in our country to change the definition of marriage? Or are we going to decide on the platform that says marriage is between one man and one woman, the way God created it for civil society around the world? Are we going to decide for the platform that tells religious institutions how they need to operate, and that they need to fund abortion, and that they need to fund things that go against their fundamental beliefs? Or are we going to decide for the platform that says we still do have our First Amendment and freedom of religion is still important to our country? Are we going to decide for a platform that decides to unfund our military? Or are we going to decide for a platform that's going to fund the men and women who have been fighting for freedom in our country for hundreds of years and fought and died for the very foundation of this nation? These are the decisions, many more. You know, are we going to decide for a platform that is about big government and entitlements? Or are we going to decide for a platform that is about small, constitutional, limited government and says that it's personal responsibility that built this country? It's the work and the sweat of Americans that built this country into what it is today, and we can reclaim it because of that. Well, we're here today, and the reason we're making that great decision is we're here today because we have a leadership crisis in America, and we have a leadership crisis in North Carolina. So I believe that this is our generation's 1776. This is our 1776. So again, we're fighting for the very foundation of our nation, for the freedoms that so many men and women have fought and died for throughout the history of this great nation. How many veterans or current members of the military do we have with us today? If you're a veteran, raise your hand today. Let's give a hand to the veterans. Thank you all for your service. You know, Ronald Reagan told us that freedom's never more than one generation away from extinction. My challenge to all of us is, let's make sure that we're not that generation that watches freedom go extinct. Not on our watch, not today in America. General Anthony Wayne in the Revolutionary War Battle of Stony Point, General Anthony Wayne sent this really simple letter to General George Washington after the victory at Stony Point. He said, General, our officers and men behave like men determined to be free. Our officers and men behave like men determined to be free. My challenge to every audience that I meet with and speak to today is this. Are you ready? Are you prepared to behave like men and women who are determined to be free? Because this is going to look very different than it's looked in the past. Just like Speaker Tillis talked about and just like Mick Mulvaney talked about. We're going to have to do things that make us very uncomfortable. We're going to have to talk to our neighbors. We're going to have to talk to our friends. We're going to have to talk to our coworkers and educate them on what's going on. What's going on in the world today. You have to be prepared to have that conversation with people. So it's our time to behave like men and women determined to be free. I also believe that in America, we do have a cultural crisis. We're facing a cultural crisis right now, and it is time in America to turn back to God. It's time to turn back to morality, to truth, to character, to principles, to integrity, to trust, to personal responsibility. Whatever happened to personal responsibility in America? You probably saw the headlines yesterday. What was the big headline yesterday? Anybody remember? Our debt, our national debt, $16 trillion. This is unsustainable in America. Every family in America now owes $136,000 just for our debt. Just for our debt. Unfunded liabilities could be as high as $115 trillion in our country. $115 trillion. Every tax-paying citizen in America now owes over $1 million for unfunded liabilities. This is unsustainable in America. We have to take on this great challenge here in America, and we have to take it on in North Carolina. You know, we have a great leadership crisis in North Carolina as well. In November, we have the opportunity to elect a new governor in Pat McCrory, who is going to work with Speaker Tillis and Phil Berger in the Senate. Lieutenant Governor holds the gavel in the Senate, and you have a choice in November for Lieutenant Governor as well. Are you going to elect a business person who wants to be fiscally responsible and restrained in the way the government is run? Or are you going to elect a government bureaucrat who has spent her entire career in government, who's backed by the unions, who doesn't necessarily believe in the right to work methodology of our state? This is what's at stake. Who's going to be holding the gavel over the Senate as President of the Senate in January 2013? We also have a Council of State that we need to pay attention to. So if you're not familiar with the Council of State, there's 9 members of the Council of State. It's the Lieutenant Governor. The Governor presides. It's the Lieutenant Governor. It's the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Treasurer, the Auditor, the Commissioner of Labor, Commissioner of Agriculture, Commissioner of Insurance. Right now we have 2 Republicans on the Council of State. We have a lot of work to do. So make sure you're paying attention to Ed Goodwin for Secretary of State, John Tedesco for Superintendent of Public Instruction, to Deborah Goldman for Auditor, for Steve Royal, thank you. I knew I was going to mess some of these up. Steve Royal for Treasurer, for Steve Troxler for Commissioner of Agriculture. And we have to make sure, Mike Causey, Commissioner of Insurance, go home and look up these names and make sure that they're on your list and they're on your ballot for November, because this is extremely important. North Carolina, we have some economic challenges we have to face as well. $30 billion worth of unfunded liabilities. We need to address that in January of 2013. There's only 8 states with a greater problem of unfunded liabilities than North Carolina, and they're the states that are going broke right now. It's folks like California, Wisconsin, New Jersey, Illinois, the poster children of bankruptcy. North Carolina is not far behind, so we have to deal with these issues. North Carolina is 44th in the nation in business tax climate. 44th in the nation in business tax climate. We say we want to compete for jobs, but there's only 6 states that have a worse business tax climate than North Carolina. We have the highest corporate income tax in the Southeast. We have the highest personal income tax rate in the Southeast, one of the highest in the nation. You probably all know today, as you filled up your car, we have the highest gas tax in the Southeast, one of the highest in the nation. Our gas tax is higher than South Carolina and Virginia combined. These are issues that need to be taken up with the next General Assembly. These are issues, as your next Lieutenant Governor, that I will fight for. Please remember to go out and fight the good fight for November. We need all the help you can get. Remember Dan Forrest for Lieutenant Governor. God bless you all, and thanks for your support.